This is the Commentary Box.
To me, tweeting was something that birds did.
Dilly din, dilly dong, come on!
Éder vai aguentar bem, Coxial e falta apoio ali sobre o lado direito, sai remate e o gol!
From a yard out, he couldn't hit a barn door with a banjo.
And the celebrations begin.
Hello and welcome to the Commentary Box for our second ever podcast. I'm Sam, obviously, and I'm joined by Jake as always.
Yes, very excited. Episode 2.
Of course, now we'll be talking about the Premier League and Premier League weekend, and we'll also be talking about the England goalkeeper situation. Let's get straight to it. And now we have the Premier League roundup of this weekend's results, and I'll pass you on to Jake for that.
Yeah, so if we look at the Saturday fixtures, we have Chelsea with a 0-0 draw at home to Leicester. So for Leicester, obviously, I presume they'd be pleased with that result. And it was also interesting that the Chelsea fans booed their players in response to the probably upsetting 0-0 draw, I'd say. Then we had Palace beating Burnley 1-0 at home, which was Burnley's 6th league game in a row without a win. Huddersfield Town 1, West Ham United 4. Arnautovic scored 2 in that, and that is now 6 goals for him this season, all of which have come under David Moyes, just highlighting the impact he has made. Newcastle United 1, Swansea City 1 for late goal from Newcastle United. And Sam, I can imagine as a Swansea fan that would be frustrating, to say the least.
Yes, I'm pretty annoyed, but I think things are looking brighter. I was just reading the news today, and apparently we might be signing Kevin Gamero, obviously the backup striker to Griezmann, and now Costa at Atletico Madrid. I think that's a good shout. For 25 million, it's quite pricey, seeing that we might be in the Championship next season. But if he wants to come, please,
More
give him a
welcome.
call, please.
And then we had Watford drawing 2-2 with Southampton, and in this game, one of the Watford goals was scored with their player's hand. I think it was a cross that came in. He went to head it. Not sure if he deliberately used his hand, but his hand definitely was up. Looked quite suspicious. And I think that just highlights the fact that we really need to get this VAR into football. I know it's coming in soon, but I just feel that it could have been done a couple of years ago.
Yes, I think, and also when I hear about it on the news and in commentary, people are they don't know a lot about it and they think it's not going to work. But I'm a big fan on European football and Italian football, and I watch a lot of Italian football, and I've seen VAR in action, and it's actually fairly simple, and it works, it's straightforward, and there's not been really any controversies around it, and the fans kind of accept the referee's decision after they've looked at the VAR, and it's sensible.
It doesn't seem too time-consuming either, which is obviously a big worry for
Yeah.
a lot of people. But no, it should be definitely brought in. Then going on to West Brom with a 2-0 win against Brighton. Brighton again, just that sort of average form, but a really good win for West Brom, which they definitely needed. Alan Pardew's first, or not many in any way, down there, still in the relegation zone, but definitely an improvement. And then Tottenham Hotspur beating Everton 4-0 at home. Harry Kane scored 2 in that, and that then beat Teddy Sheringham's record of 97 goals for Tottenham, and now Harry Kane with 98. And he's also one of the only players to get 20-plus goals in the past 4 seasons, I think, which is a really big statement, and especially that a lot of people were saying he's going to be a one-hit wonder. One season, he'd die off. But no, really impressive. But yeah, and on to Sunday's results, Sam?
Yes, Sunday was a very surprising day of football. It started with Bournemouth beating Arsenal 2-1. And this game was kind of shrouded in a bit of controversy as Alexis Sanchez was not in the lineup, and I think that took away from Bournemouth's victory. But after the match, Arsene Wenger stated that he is unsure on the future of Alexis Sanchez, and in the next 48 hours we'll know whether Alexis Sanchez is either going to be an Arsenal player, a Manchester City player, or a Manchester United player. So I hope you've all got your clocks ready for the next 48 hours. Get ready for the news, because it's going to be big news wherever he goes, really. And of course, we can't really end by not talking about Liverpool beating Manchester City to make their unbeaten run disappear.
Yeah, looking at that, like, surprising. I would have thought definitely City would have won that game, being in such really good form. They've been completely unbeaten so far this season, and yeah, Liverpool just shows how dangerous they can really be on the attack with that free-flowing, exciting, attacking football that they have under Klopp. Obviously, still with some defensive problems, conceding 2 late goals to Bernardo Silva and Gundogan that put a bit of worry on a couple of Liverpool fans' faces, but they were okay in the end. And yeah, it was Mane's 3rd goal against City at Anfield, and yeah, it was a really interesting game. And I heard Klopp in the interview after was saying stuff about, this is why we love football so much, just surprising results and just a really, really good game of football.
Yeah, I mean, I stepped out for a few minutes while I was watching it, and Liverpool suddenly were leading, and I was very surprised by that. So because it's ended Manchester City's 22 games of unbeatenness, and actually, I've got a fact here: Manchester City haven't won at Anfield for 18 matches.
Yeah, I saw something about Aguero. He hasn't scored at Anfield at all since he's been playing there, and he's been in the Premier League for quite a few seasons now. Didn't score, obviously, in that game either. And it's just, yeah, I don't know what it is. I was thinking about this earlier, and I was thinking that possibly with City having such a really strong squad, maybe with that team, when you have such individual talent and they come together, although it works and they assist each other, I think with Liverpool, it's more, like more of like a community with they're more mates. I get that sort of feeling from clubs like Liverpool where they all know each other, they all really get on. They're tight friends. Where at City, it feels like there's pockets of, you got a couple of English players, a couple of Spanish, etc. And although they do perform well on the pitch, I can see every now and again where they aren't going to, really grind out results and perform like exceptionally, really consistently, even though with the talent they have. But yeah, no, what a game that was.
I think on that point, I think Manchester City are almost like a machine in getting results, whereas Liverpool are a bit more romantic about it. Yeah. They're a bit more fluid, etc. But also, I think it's interesting what Guardiola said after the match. He said it's normal to lose a game, and I think he's completely true there. I think there's no need for Manchester City fans or anyone to say, "Oh, Manchester City are going to lose the title now," and that, because it's just one match. Let's see how it pans out. They're probably going to win the next few matches.
No need to worry.
But another thing to know is Liverpool are now on an 18-match unbeaten run as well, which is pretty surprising if you think about it.
I wouldn't have thought that. But on to tonight's fixture, which is who again?
It is Manchester United versus Stoke City tonight at 8 o'clock.
Ooh, and they do have a new manager. At first I saw that Martin O'Neill turned down the job, and then Paul Lambert accepted the job. So personally, from an outsider, obviously I would have, if I was a Stoke fan, I would have loved to have Martin O'Neill. I think he'd be a good manager to have in, quite well tactical, fairly disciplined, and seems like a general nice guy. I think I'd enjoy playing under him. Paul Lambert, maybe not with the sort of experience and background as some fans would want. However, still a good manager nonetheless, and it's good they've got him in early because it's so important to get managers straight in.
Yeah, I think the Stoke wanted a British manager or a manager from the British Islands, but they also were looking at Kike Flores, which was interesting because he's obviously not British, but I thought he would have been a good shout. But I think as soon as he was recommended or kind of in the news about it, he said, "I'm Espanyol manager," and he basically kind of confirmed that he wasn't interested in the Stoke job. But I think it's an all-right kind of signing as a manager for Paul Lambert, but I don't know if he's going to progress the club that much. He's kind of got an okay record, but yeah. Anyways, we're going to have to reveal the answer of last week's quiz question. Now, the question was, who scored for Wigan against Manchester City in the 2013 FA Cup final? Jake, you know the answer, don't you?
Yeah, I think I do. I remember I'm going to say Ben Watson because I can just picture Watson 20 looking at like some camera angle from behind him, almost just, I don't know what the shot was. I got a feeling it was just sort of like direct across into the goal. And I think it was really, really late in the game. Wigan fans would have gone absolutely mental. Would have been a really good game. But yeah, that is my answer.
Yes, you are correct. It was Ben Watson in the 90th minute +1. So,
Good.
Yes.
To know.
And now on to the next segment. So our second segment is the England #1 goalkeeper situation. Now, we did a poll on Twitter about this, and if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so by following @BoxCommentary on Twitter. Now, Jake, do you want to reveal the results of our Twitter poll?
Yes, the all-important results. So, in the end, it turned out, so we had the options of Joe Hart, Jack Butland, Jordan Pickford, and then other for someone to comment below. We had Jack Butland winning it with 36% of the votes. A joint second, actually, with Joe Hart and Jordan Pickford, and then one vote for the other section, which was 6%, and that was for myself, as I'm a goalkeeper by trade, and I'm sure if Gareth Southgate would like to contact me, he definitely can, and anyone else can. For any suggestions of the show, by the way, if you go to thecommentarybox.contact@gmail.com. So, look, are we surprised by those results, Sam?
I'm just surprised that you turned up on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand why people want Jack Butland, Hart, and Pickford as their first choice, but why you? I mean, it'd be interesting. But anyways, to be in all seriousness, it doesn't really surprise me. I think Butland was basically going to be #1 before he got injured, and I think he has shown a few glimpses of why he should be #1 for Stoke this season. He's kept Stoke in games that they really should have lost, and he's got a really weak back four in front of him in terms of kind of their team cohesion. So I think it's no surprise with Pickford. I think he should be definitely in the squad because he's had a tremendous few years, kind of coming up as a upcoming goalkeeper. But then Hart, I think with the situation with Hart, I feel so bad for him because I think he's lost his confidence. Obviously, he had to go to Torino, and I think his spell out in Italy wasn't the greatest, but wasn't the worst. And now he's probably thought this season, let's go back to the Premier League, let's kind of re-cement my name into English football. And he hasn't been able to do that at West Ham. And I think under a different manager like Moyes, I thought he might get more game time, but he's really struggled, and he's been dropped for the last 3 matches.
Yeah,
for Adrian now.
Definitely been playing all those games.
But I think that's my overall summary of the results. But what about you, Jay? What do you think on that, on the Twitter poll at least?
I'm slightly surprised. Like, personally, I think Joe Hart is a very good goalkeeper, a very passionate goalkeeper. I feel that I think he really wants to be there and with the country. I know he's been dropped, he's never been playing, and I thought, what other goalkeepers do I know, international goalkeepers that is, that are not playing for their regular club and in the international side? I can't think of any. I think that's so important, especially leading up to a World Cup. You have to be constantly playing. I think Butland is a good shout. I don't know personally if I put him in as the #1, but I think I would take him to the squad. And then Pickford, I think, is another young goalkeeper. I probably would take him as well. As a third, get some World Cup experience under his belt, and sort of get used to that environment. But, you know, there are other names. If we look in sort of the Premier League terms of those top keepers, we've got Nick Pope, who's the standing goalkeeper right now for Tom Heaton, who's injured, and he's about 25, 26 years old, Burnley keeper, doing quite well, making some good saves. But I think that him, quite inexperienced, definitely not had a really long-term success. So I wouldn't take him. Fraser Forster, obviously been with England before and was looking like a good backup keeper or third in the squad, but having an average season at Southampton, wouldn't take him personally. Then obviously we have Joe Hart, not playing at West Ham, but personally I think he's a good keeper, he's got experience, and I think the World Cup will be a chance for him to really show and shine as a good keeper that he is. Jordan Pickford also having a good season at Everton so far, conceding a lot of goals, I would have thought. However, not the strongest defence around him, and he also has the second most saves in the Premier League so far, which is a good stat in terms of doing well, but then obviously not looking good on Everton's defence. Next goalkeeper, obviously Jack Butland, doing well for Stoke this season, as Sam was saying earlier, and then Tom Heaton, who's currently injured, but did have a very good season last season and has had a good start as well. And actually, going back to Nick Pope, he's had the joint 4th clean sheet this season, which is 9, and that's quite impressive and a very important stat that surely Southgate would at least look into.
I see you stolen my stats there from my notebook, leaving me no stats to tell. But yeah, I would have to agree with what you said. I think definitely Nick Pope should be in the reckoning. Good young keeper coming through Burnley and progressing really, really well. And to have the joint 4th most clean sheets in the Premier League, I mean, that's nothing to be ashamed of. It's a brilliant stat, and it's the most of any English keeper, so he's got to be in the reckoning. And unfortunately for Tom Heaton, he's got a really big trouble ahead of him, because how is he going to get back into that goalkeeping number 1 position? Unless Sean Jice maybe sees something on the training pitch that we're not seeing, but it's going to be really tough for him, because obviously he was looking like he could be the number 1 at the end when Butland was injured.
Definitely.
But I got another fact, actually, the one that you didn't actually steal.
Didn't take this one.
But that fact is only 3 Premier League English keepers have kept have saved penalty this season.
Really?
Yep, and they've only saved 1, which is not not brilliant for us, really.
That's not great, because there's a lot of Premier League English goalkeepers,
yeah.
actually. There's some that, like Ben Foster as well, from West Brom. Forgot about him. Do you know who those keepers were?
I think they were. Let me have a look. No, I don't.
No, never mind.
Joe Hart was one of them. Yeah. Fraser Foster and
Jordan Pickford.
Yes, I do have them. Never mind.
Yeah, we do. Okay, well, we do have that stat just in store that we like to give you guys every now and again. But yeah, so that's interesting, actually. I would have definitely thought a lot more English goalkeepers would have saved penalties this season. Yeah, that's very, very surprising. But yeah, I think looking at all of that, and obviously we look at this goalkeeping situation, it's definitely not certain on which goalkeeper we're going to go for. And if we were going to go for looking wider, I guess we could look at the likes of Ben Foster. And you were telling me something earlier about Scott Carson from Derby, I think.
Yes, I saw an article actually about how Scott Carson maybe should be in the reckoning for England. And that actually got me thinking about 2 things. B, should John Ruddy then be in the reckoning for the England squad? Because when he was at Norwich, I think he did actually make it into one England squad, and now he's doing well at Wolves. But then it raises an even bigger question, is if the English player is forming in the Championship or abroad, should they be in the reckoning for the England lineup? My personal opinion is that they should, of course. Maybe not Championship, but definitely players playing abroad. But it's a question that does kind of recur with this. But it might be another question we have to answer another day. But on the England keeper situation, we have so many good keepers at the moment, a good amount. And it's a shame that most of them are kind of experiencing dips in their form and kind of...
Yeah.
They're all kind of doing average, but they have shown brilliance in the last 2 or 3 seasons. And hopefully we'll find out that one, maybe at the end of the season now, has done really well and they'll be on number 1. But at the moment, it's all up in the air. I
think that's good in terms of it's great to have so many options. And I think that some of the keepers, for example, like Nick Pope from Burnley, we talked about earlier, you know, he's got a very good stat of clean sheets under his belt. And I think that would give him confidence. You know that Tom Heaton's going to be competing against him. So I think it's going to make all the keepers think, I've got a shot. Some keepers who thought, I'd never get the England thing. I think they now think they can. And it's going to grow confidence. And I really hope, like you said, that we're going to see a couple of keepers having a really good finish to the season, and we're going to be like, I'm confident to have him in. I know it's a short-term thing, but looking at the situation we have, it's sort of the best, not from a bad, but from an average bunch in a sense.
An average in form, a brilliance in talent, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So just to quickly end with this bit, who would you take as your 3 keepers, and who would be your number 1?
I think, looking at it, I would have Joe currently right now.
Yep.
Not saying I know anything about
right now.
season. Right now, I would say Joe Hart would be my number 1.
Yep.
I think I'd put Jack Butland as my number 2, and I think I'd have Jordan Pickford my number 3. So get a big experience with Pickford, Butland a decent keeper, knowing that he can be the next step, and then Joe Hart. I think it's the best out of those 3. What about you?
I would take Jack Butland as my number 1 because he's got a tiny bit more international experience than, say, Jordan Pickford. I would take Jordan Pickford as my number 2. I think he's done really well this season, and I think there might be like a bit of a battle at the actual at the World Cup with those 2, in my opinion. And then my third one would be Joe Hart, purely for the experience and the level head he has, and the fact that he's been there and done that. And I if I was going to pick those 3, I would really feel bad for Nick Pope, but I think maybe it's a bit too soon.
Yeah.
Give him see how he does another season. But yeah, that's my opinion. So that ends our chat about goalkeepers, and it kind of brings the show neatly to an end, apart from a quiz question that Jake has prepared for me.
Yes, so...
And you, of course.
My question this time is, in July 2010, Manchester City purchased a player from Valencia for 24 million. And if that may be a bit vague, I will give the clue that he is a current player in the Manchester City squad. And that answer will hopefully be answered by Sam next week, if he gets it right.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you. So that brings us to the end of the show. Of course, thank you for listening. I hope you have enjoyed it, because we certainly have, haven't we, Jake?
Yeah, definitely.
Of course, if you would like to get in contact with us, you can do so via Twitter at Box Commentary. And of course, if you want to email us, you can
email the commentarybox.contact@gmail.com, where anything for a topic intro, a quiz question, or even a shout out, we would really appreciate.
Yes, and of course, that brings us to an end. So we shall see you next week. Enjoy your weekend's football if you're playing or just watching. See ya.